Shut up and sit down.
Essay on Helen Keller. Helen Keller Essay for Students and Children in English. Born on 27th June 1880 in Tuscumbia, USA, the daughter of Captain Arthur Henry Keller and Kate Adamus Keller, she was born with full sight and hearing. The family lived in a house, Ivy Green, that was built decades ago by her grandfather. She had 2 younger siblings and 2 older half-brothers. They were leading a quiet life, but this was soon going to be short-lived. In February 1882, when Helen was 19 months old, she fell ill. To this day, the nature of her ailment remains a mystery. The doctors of that time called it brain fever, while today's doctors think it may have been scarlet fever or meningitis. Whatever the illness, Helen was expected to die. When eventually the fever subsided, Helen's family was believed that their daughter was well again. However, Helen's mother soon noticed that her daughter failed to respond when the dinner bell rang or when she passed her hand in front of her daughter's eyes. Helen became a very difficult child, smashing dishes, lamps, and terrorizing the household with her screaming and temper tantrums. Relatives regarded her as a monster and said that she should be put into an institution. By the time Helen was 6, her family had become desperate. Looking after Helen was proving too much for them, so her mother traveled to a specialist doctor for advice. They were confirmed that Helen could never see or hear again. But the doctor believed that Helen could be taught, and he advised them to visit a local expert on the problems of dumb children. This expert was Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone. Bell suggested that the Kellers write to Michael Anagonus, director of the Perkins Institution and Massachusetts Asylum for the Blind, and request him for another teacher. He considered Helen's case and immediately recommended a former pupil of the institution, Anne Sullivan. On 3rd March 1887, Anne met Helen Keller for the first time. Anne immediately started teaching Helen to finger spell, spelling out the word doll to signify a present she had brought with her for Helen. The next word she taught Helen was cake. Although Helen could repeat these finger movements, she could not quite understand what they meant. What frustrated her was that every object had a unique word for it. When Annie was teaching her the word mug, Keller broke the doll in rage. Annie and Helen then moved into a small cottage on the mainland house to try and get Helen to improve her behavior. Of particular concern were Helen's table manners. She had taken to eating with her hands and from the plates of everyone on the table. Over the coming weeks, however, Helen's behavior did begin to improve as a bond grew between the two. Then after a month of Anne's teaching, what the people of the time called a miracle occurred. Helen had until now not yet fully understood the meaning of words. When Annie led her to the water pump on 5th April 1887, a drastic change occurred. As the cool stream gushed into Helen's one hand, Annie slowly spelled the word water on Helen's hand. Helen suddenly felt that the mystery of the language was revealed to her. Within the next few hours, Helen learned the spelling of 30 new words. Helen's progress from then on was astonishing. Her ability to learn was far in advance of anything that anybody had seen before in someone without sight or hearing. Soon she could write with both ordinary and Braille typewriters. Helen had now become a phenomenon to reckon with. Her next achievement, which brought her laurels from all over the world, was when she moved to the Cambridge School for Young Ladies in 1896 and in the autumn of 1900 entered the Radcliffe College, becoming the first deaf and blind person to have ever enrolled at an institution of higher learning. In 1904, Helen graduated from college, becoming the first deaf blind person to have a bachelor's degree. She maintained contacts with Austrian philosopher Wilhelm Jerusalem, who was one of the first people to discover her literary skills. With her determination, she learned to speak and give lectures and speeches. She heard others' speeches by feeling their lips with her hands. She became adept at Braille and sign language. She could also feel the music by placing her hands on top of a resonant table.